So apparently a Republican politician named Jon Hubbard has said that slavery was actually a good thing and a blessing in disguise for black people. Can you believe it? 2012, and this politician is coming out with a book, writing a book. You know, I thought that after politicians like Todd Aiken came out and said, oh, legitimate rape doesn't lead to a woman getting pregnant. I thought that after the whole controversy, you know, Republicans wouldn't come out and say stupid things like this. But you know what? It actually happened, and his Republican came out and actually wrote a book and put it in writing that slavery was actually a blessing in disguise for black people, which we all know is complete ludicrousy. Do the math. I mean, slavery, if you look in between the conservative estimates of 6 million and the over-exaggerated ones like 100 million or whatever, the actual likeliest death toll of slavery was 18 million people killed. Can you imagine that number? 18 million. That's the Holocaust multiplied by 3. That's how many black people died during slavery. That's how many people died between 1451 to 1870. But you know what? This ludicrous extreme view that slavery was a benefit to black people because it gave them citizenship is not something that's new. It's been said for quite a long time. And frankly, people are getting tired of it. I'm getting tired of hearing it. If you go back all the way to Thomas Jefferson said this about black people, yeah? Listen to this. And I'm quoting here, by the way. He said that, "We have the wolf by the ear, and we can neither hold him nor safely let him go. Justice in one scale and self-preservation in the other hand." Can you believe that? One of the founding fathers of America saying something like that about black people. Which is, of course, ironic, him calling us wolves when they're the ones that came out like ravenous wolves in Africa and took us and put in chains and shipped them up to America. And calling us wolves now. No, they were the wolves. We were the trusting sheep. I mean, imagine if I owned 24 million slaves personally by myself. And then someone came up to me and said, "Excuse me, if you give me all your slaves, I might make them citizens in my own country, the greatest nation in the whole world, the United States of America. But I can't guarantee that all 24 million of them will make it to the United States. In fact, about 18 million of them will die. But 6 million will be worth, you know, the effort, and they will have citizenship in the United States, and they will be treated as equals eventually. We'll give them equal rights maybe 400 years later in 1968. I would obviously come out and say, no, that's not a deal. That's ridiculous. That's ludicrous. I'm not going to give you slaves just like that so you can kill more than 3/4 of them. That doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't make sense. You know, some people are actually becoming history revisionists, and they're actually saying that, oh, it was actually black people who sold black slaves to white people who came to Africa, which of course is the biggest, darkest lie in the whole world. Don't believe it, people from North America. African Americans, you hear that excuse that us black people sold black slaves to America. It's not true at all. I mean, think about it. First of all, we would have to speak English and French and Portuguese in the first place in order to trade slaves, which of course would have taken quite a lot of time, bearing in mind that no Africans had ever heard these European languages in the first place to begin with. And not to mention, they would have had to come with something to trade with for them to give them slaves in the first place. I mean, what exactly did white people come from Europe with in order to trade for black slaves and then sell them off to America to make profit? I mean, you're more likely to make a loss over such a venture. You're not going to make a profit. So the only way you can make a profit is to come in 4 slaves that you've captured yourself personally and then put them into boats and chains and then ship them up to America. Because back in the day, it was unlikely that white people who are coming from Europe had anything to trade with that black chiefs or black people who own slaves would want. For example, gold. It's unlikely it will come with gold. If there was gold, then where is that gold today? How come we don't have it? I don't see no rich or wealthy black people in Africa today. You got 1 or 2 billionaires, and that's about it. And you know what? Yeah, times are changing now, and this whole ploy and tactic of trying to revise history and make up, you know, facts that weren't even facts to begin with is nothing new at all. You know, there probably are some things that I personally think happened in the past, but I'm probably unaware that they actually didn't happen in the way that my head says it happens. For example, the whole Osama bin Laden killing in Pakistan and what the United States government said about how he actually died. What I probably think happened is probably not even close to the actual truth of what happened. But you know what? It's all right. At the end of the day, all we can do is make the best judgment based on the information that we have at hand and then move on with our lives, you know? There's no point carrying on suspicion and hatred and acting up on it, really, because life is too short for that. Alright, you know what? Even that crazy German Nazi Goebbels said that if you tell a lie over and over again, it's more probable that people will actually start believing it. And you know what? It does actually happen. It does actually have quite an effect. But people who are more intelligent know that, you know what, some things are best not believing unless you've got concrete evidence to back it up. Otherwise, you know, anything that can be asserted without proof can also be dismissed without proof. And that's the point I'm trying to get across here. So I'm going to say this once, and I'm going to say this once only. Jon Hubbard, you should be ashamed of yourself to actually think that slavery was a benefit for black people in America. It wasn't, not even close. If you put in account what we lost and what we gained, it was not worth it. Not one black life was worth dying. Even though to a lot of you, I'm pretty sure that black lives are cheap. But you know what? To us, our black lives are worth quite a lot. Even though we start out with nothing, it doesn't mean we're going to end up with nothing. And today things are changing. You know, back in the day, white people had German shepherds that were set on us and all sorts, both in Africa and in North America. But today things are much different. Today black people got pit bulls, and we even have hyenas as pets. So, you know, I can't try that stuff again. We didn't have power back then, but now we've got power. What I'm trying to say is people need to be more careful and more thoughtful about what they say when they're talking about race, because it's a very sensitive issue. It hasn't been resolved. It still exists, and it's a fight that we're going to fight to the death. The racism giant is down, but it's not out yet. It's not out.